In a seaside village at night, silver moonlight dances across the water. The small wooden house is silent, with only the gentle sound of waves lapping against the shore. 8-year-old Taidy lies curled up in bed beside her gray teddy bear named Bobo. She tosses and turns, frowning as a whisper begins to echo in her head. The voice in her head, "What if you say the wrong thing again? What if no one loves you?" Taidy whispers to Bobo, "Why won't this voice stop?" Taidy got out of bed and walked to the window, the curtains fluttering gently. She stared at the glowing blue-green sea as if thousands of stars were floating beneath its surface. The sound of the waves began to rhythmically, as if they were speaking to her. Sound of the waves. Taidy, come here. You'll know where your fear comes from. Taidy muttering softly, Who's talking to me? That night, the sea was no longer just an ordinary body of water. It had light, sound, and an invitation that captivated a young girl's heart. The sea breeze intensified, and the curtains fluttered high as if clearing a path. Taidy took a deep breath before stepping barefoot onto the glowing surface. The water wasn't cold at all. It was soft and warm, like the embrace of a dream. In the middle of the sea, a small silver boat swayed gently, as if waiting for her. Taidy, if it will help me understand my own heart, then I'll go. Wave sound. That's the bravest thing, Taidy. As her feet touched the water, she realized that her fear wasn't in the sea, but in her own heart. And tonight, for the first time, she decided to step out of that fear. As soon as Taidy's tiny feet touched the surface, the water became warm like an embrace. A soft blue glow slowly melted, leading to a silver ship in the middle of the ocean. The ship appeared to be made of moonlight, and a mist of light shimmered on the water's surface. Then, a glowing, transparent seal slowly emerged, its body soft and translucent, its eyes sparkling. Taidy, what's your name? Seal. Luna, I am the guardian of dreams, and I will guide you to where your heart lies. The glowing water wasn't a scary sight, but a gateway to something within. And so, the guardian of dreams appeared, leading a young girl on a journey of her heart. A silver boat slowly drifted away from the shore amidst the moonlight and silence. The soft sound of oars skimming through the water was like a lullaby. But as Taidy lost herself in thought about her school days, the days she'd been laughed at, whispers echoed from around the sea. A voice from the waves. "Don't say that, or people will laugh." Another voice. "You'll make another mistake." Taidy, crossing her arms tightly, where did they come from? Every time the anxiety swept through her heart, the sound of the waves changed. From a calming sound, it became an echo of the fear she'd once tried to escape. The water around her began to stir, and small waves crashed against the side of the boat. Taidy gripped the edge of the boat tightly, her eyes trembling. Luna, a clear seal, floated beside the boat, her eyes gentle yet profound. The water reflected Taidy's own face, eyes filled with fear. Taidy, what's going on, Luna? Luna, this is the sea of inner voices, Taidy. Every time you worry, it turns into a wave. Luna, don't be afraid of the waves. They're your own creation. Listen to them and you'll understand. The girl stared at the waves, reflecting her own reflection. She had come to understand that not all waves were enemies, but feelings waiting for her to listen gently. "Why is it so quiet now?" Listen closely. Sometimes silence hides the loudest voices. The silver ship sailed deeper into the sea. Gray mist hung around Taidy. The soft wind, filled with words she didn't want to hear, began to whisper softly. You'll make another mistake. Don't think anyone understands you. Everyone will laugh like that time again. She began to realize that those voices were coming from herself. The voices that used to speak softly in her mind when she was afraid of making a mistake. But now they were echoing in all directions, as if the entire sea was speaking at once. The waves began to rise, their rhythm quickening. The water turned a dull hue, and the wind blew her hair wildly. She saw a large wave rising, and in it, there were dark shadows of strange sea creatures. They were waves that had taken shape, sea creatures of worry. Some had multiple eyes, some had mouths full of teeth, and some had faces just like hers. "What are they, Luna?" Taidy cried. "Will they swallow us?" A clear seal jumped onto the side of the boat, water dripping from its body glowing. "They are things that might happen," Luna said slowly. "Things your mind has predicted even before they happen."
She began paddling with all her might, but the harder she paddled, the higher the waves grew. The boat shook violently. The gray sky turned black. The crashing water was deafening, as if her heart was about to burst. "Run! Run!" the voice in her head shouted, competing with the waves. But at the same time, Luna's voice was still soft in her ear. "The more you run, the more they'll chase you. The more you're afraid, the more they'll grow." Taidy cried as she continued paddling. She didn't know whether she was tired from the waves or from her own thoughts. And as a wave crashed against the side of the boat, sending Bobo falling from her hands, she felt her heart sinking along with it. The voice in her head was so loud, it almost exploded. "If you're not good enough, you'll never make it out here." Water splashed against her face, stinging her eyes, and she could only see shadows around her. The boat rocked harder and harder. There was no escape. The waves continued to pound. Taidy's voice in her head competed with the sound of the sea. She paddled with all her remaining strength, but no matter where she went, the waves kept coming. Water splashed into her eyes, stinging and salty. Her hair was wet against her cheek, her small hands trembling. She shouted through tears, "I don't want to be here anymore. Why won't it stop?" The boat rocked so hard it nearly capsized. Bobo, the gray teddy bear, slipped from her hand. The girl tried to reach out, but a large wave came crashing down again. She almost fell off the boat. "Help! Luna!" Luna jumped onto the side of the boat, her light glowing brightly in the darkness. Taidy's voice echoed around her, but suddenly, everything stopped when she stopped paddling. The voice in her head competed with the sound of the waves until Luna spoke softly. "You're running away from your own voice, Taidy." She paused for a moment. Tears welled up in her eyes. She saw her reflection in the water, filled with fear. "Luna, you can't escape until you listen to it." Taidy looked down at the turbulent waters around the boat. She saw her own reflection in the waves, a girl who looked exactly like her, but whose eyes were filled with fear. "Run," the reflection in the water said. "Don't stop. If you stop, it will swallow you." Tears streamed down Taidy's cheeks. She shook her head slowly. "No, I'm tired.
I don't want to run anymore. She let go of the paddle, and it hit the boat with a thud. The wind stopped, and the waves stopped, as if the entire sea was listening. Taidy placed her hand on her chest and took a deep breath. I'm scared. Yes, I'm really scared. But I'll stay here with her. I won't run again. The reflection in the water stared back and slowly faded. The once raging waves eased. The crashing against the boat began to soften, becoming a gentle rhythm. Luna looked at her with warm eyes. You dared to stop. That's the first step to understanding your own heart. Taidy closed her eyes and took another deep breath. The pounding heart began to slow, like the waves beginning to calm. At that moment, she felt a silence she had never known before. So quiet. She could hear her own heart beating in sync with the sea. The sea was so still that she could hear the drops of water falling from Tidy's hair onto the boat's deck. The sky above her had changed from gray to dark blue, illuminated by soft starlight. A cool breeze blew across her face, but this time it wasn't scary anymore. The girls sat still in the middle of the boat, floating slowly on the calm water. Bobo, the gray teddy bear, had miraculously floated back to her. It was soaked, but its round eyes were still warm. She picked it up and hugged it tightly. This time, not out of fear, but out of longing. Taidy, I'm sorry. I tried so hard to escape that I forgot about you. Luna sat beside the boat. Her inner light rippled around her. The sea reflected the deep blue sky and twinkling stars. Luna looked at her with gentle eyes. You did the right thing by stopping. Staying still isn't about losing, but about listening deeply enough to hear your own heart. Luna, when we don't run away, the waves become our friends, not our enemies. Taidy looked up at the sky. The starlight reflected off the water around the boat like a mirror. She saw her own face there, but this time there was no fear in her eyes, calm and steady. The sound of the waves. She murmured softly. It's not like before, because you're listening to them, not running from them. When we don't try to control them, the waves become our friends, not our enemies. Taidy closed her eyes and took a deep breath. All the sounds around her gradually blended together. Her breathing, the waves, her heart. She felt herself slowly lifted from all her fear. A golden light began to emanate from around the ship. The glowing waves moved slowly, as if dancing. The whispers in her head disappeared, leaving only a peaceful silence. She opened her eyes again and found the ship gently dipping beneath the surface. What's going on, Luna? You're about to see what lies beneath the waves, a world of those still drowning in worry. The water around her began to shimmer. The silver ship slowly sank into the depths of the sea. But Taidy felt no fear at all. She knew now, silence didn't mean emptiness. It was the beginning of understanding. The water gradually turned a deep gold blue as Taidy's boat sank. All around her was a glowing glow of algae and coral, glowing like underwater lanterns. The silence was so deep she could almost hear her own heartbeat. She peered into the depths and saw a city beneath the sea, a quiet, beautiful, yet strange city. Houses were made of large seashells. Streets were paved with luminescent sand, and in the air, or perhaps the water, were people floating slowly. But everyone's face was filled with sadness.
Some had their eyes closed tightly, as if trying to forget something. Some were trying to reach for a non-existent bubble. Some were apologizing repeatedly, even though no one was there. "Who are they, Luna?" Taidy asked softly. "They are the ones drowning in their own worries. Everyone is still thinking about what might have happened, forgetting they're even alive." Children and adults floated underwater, reaching out to grasp non-existent bubbles. Some apologized repeatedly, as if trapped in anxiety. A young woman tried to build an incomplete boat. An old man sat in front of a mirror, surrounded by bubbles with the word "if." A young girl looked down and saw people trying to grasp non-existent bubbles. Some repeatedly apologized. A young woman built an incomplete boat, all still immersed in anxiety, forgetting she was alive. Tidy's heart heaved. She saw herself there, a person who had once feared making a mistake, feared the looks of others. And in that moment, she understood. The girl stepped out of the boat, miraculously walking on the sand underwater, her voice trembling but steady. "Can everyone hear me? We all just have to stop being afraid and we'll float up." Her voice echoed like an underwater bell. The townspeople began to look, their eyes slowly glowing with a warm glow. The boat builder stopped, and her boat rose. The old man, berating himself, released his hand from the mirror and smiled for the first time in years. The children, who had been crying, chuckled softly as they rose like bubbles. Suddenly, the entire town began to glow golden. The once dim coral became brighter, like stars. The water was crystal clear, and life slowly rose to the surface. Taidy watched the scene with tears of contentment. "I am ready too," she whispered. Luna nodded. "When you let go of your worries, you lose nothing. You gain your true self." The silver boat returned to pick her up and carried her to the surface amidst the warm golden light of dawn. A silver boat slowly rose from the deep sea. The water around her was a pale gold, and bubbles rose like sparkling stars. The seaweed beneath her waves swayed as if sending her home. The whispers that had once filled her head all but silence. Only the calm beating of her heart remained. Thump, thump, in time with the waves. Luna sat at the bow of the boat, looking warmly at Taidy. The girl looked up at the lightning surface. "You did it, Taidy. You dared to go deep into your heart and come back stronger than ever."
Taidy stared at the water surface, not far away. She saw starlight reflected on it like a mirror of reality. And in that light, she saw herself, a girl who had once been afraid of everything. But now she had a calm, confident smile. "Luna," she said softly, "I'm still a little afraid." The clear seal chuckled softly. "It's okay to be afraid. It's the nature of the heart. But you know, waves aren't meant to be escaped. They're meant to be listened to and learned from their rhythm."
The boat slowly rose above the surface. A cool sea breeze brushed Tidy's cheek. She could see her small village in the distance on the shore. The light from her mother's window still shone warmly. The stars twinkled overhead. But now it wasn't just any star. It was the light of peace she had just discovered. Tidy pressed a hand to her chest. "Thank you, Luna, for bringing me here." "I'm not taking you anywhere," Luna replied. "I'm just shining a light to help you see the path within your own heart." Luna's light slowly faded, but before it disappeared, it said, "Whenever you feel the waves in your heart start to rise again, close your eyes and listen quietly.
because there's always peace behind fear. The birds chirped softly in the morning. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, falling onto the floor of the small bedroom. Taidy slowly opened her eyes. Everything looked the same. The cream curtains her mother had sewn herself. The gray teddy bear, Bobo, lay beside her pillow. A faint scent of the sea wafted in the breeze. But inside her heart, it was no longer the same. She heard the sound of waves outside her window, the sound that had seemed so terrifying last night. Now it was gentle, like a lullaby from an old friend. She sat up and went to open the window. The sea breeze blew gently. Her hair fluttered, and the sunlight bathed her face. She saw the sea in the morning, silent, but with a constant current. It seemed to be saying, "Life never stops, but don't be afraid to float with it." She smiled softly and said to herself, "I'm not afraid of the waves anymore." Her voice was soft and steady. Lying on the bed, Bobo seemed to smile back.
The birds chirped softly in the morning. Her mother opened the door and came in. "Are you awake, dear? Did you sleep well last night?" Taidy turned and smiled. "You slept very well, Mom. I had the best dreams." Mother chuckled softly and patted her head. "That's good, dear. The weather is nice today. Want to go for a walk?" The girl nodded. But before leaving the room, she turned to look out the window again. The waves continued to gently laze against the shore, as if saying something she understood. "Thank you, the sea," she whispered.
In the afternoon, she strolled along the beach. The sand was warm beneath her feet. The sound of the waves was steady. But in her heart, there was no more of that soft whisper from that night. There was only stillness, freedom, and the understanding that waves were not enemies, but teachers of life. She stopped walking and looked towards the horizon. A small smile appeared on her face. Her eyes held courage, gentleness, and serenity. Conclusion. Anxiety is like the waves of the sea. If we try to escape them, they will chase us and swallow us up. But when we accept, learn, and understand their rhythm, the waves will become a force that carries us to true peace. This story teaches us that anxiety is the enemy of life. But when we learn to live with them with understanding, they become friends, reminding us to be mindful,